Set. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our in-room guests. Welcome to our virtual guests. We love the excitement, the challenge, the curveballs of hosting two events at one time. But this is such an exciting program that we want everyone to be able to participate. And we are so excited at how many people signed up to be with us today. So thank you all for being here. My name is Emily Badix. I am co-director of the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center, where you are participating in the program today. We'll go over some quick access notes. We have our interpreters on screen and captions. We have Mika, who is one of the third co-director, is virtually online with us today. So you can message them if you have any tech needs from the virtual space. We'll be reading things aloud that come up in the chat, and we'll share it out with folks. So if you're in the room and you feel like you're missing out on that space, or if you're virtual and you can't access that space, we'll be bringing it into the conversation today. So hopefully everyone has the same access. We are developing, we are running this event as one of the many events that we were so lucky to have kind of clearly laid out for us, by Alice Wong before she passed away. We met in July, just as we were getting ready to open the Cultural Center. And she had been involved in the early advisory council for the Cultural Center, helping think it through, planning. There was a day where she sent me a list and she was like, here's the types of things I thought we might do at the Cultural Center. Like, add your ideas. And I was like, Alice, there's nothing left. You put so many brilliant fucking ideas into this Google Doc. And then she just kind of kept coming up with more. and she left us with support and this very clear opportunity to continue to honor her legacy that we just feel tremendously moved by. So one of them was that she really thought we needed, as part of her entire life's work, was about how do we get more disability stories out there? How do we do better representation? Disability Visibility. That was the name of her organization. That was the name of her anthology. Oh, Mika, can you support handling the mutes?
Hi. I'm on time.
Welcome. Being on time is definitely something to celebrate. We went ahead and muted you because this is going to be a program where we're really going to be mostly the leaders of the project talking it through and getting everybody on board with how we're going to pull it off. So she didn't have like a very specific way of how to go about it. She just thought that we need more activities where we get to be really expressive with disability storytelling. And so we also have this beautiful space at the Cultural Center and years of planning that went into this space. And we had so many focus groups, and we met with folks and said, you know, what are your hopes and dreams for this space? And what came up again and again is that people wanted to see artwork made by disabled folks. Just the second you enter a space that you know it is not one of those institutional spaces you're stuck in. No, home and garden purchased art, like things that are, going to really show the vibrancy of this community. So behind this projector where I am in the Cultural Center today, we have a really large 10-foot wall. And we thought, well, this is the first place that the Quilt project can debut. And we really look forward to being able to have it here in, let's say, 6 months is when we're aiming to complete this project. Let's say in grip time. That's brilliant, Dagny. So what our overview is that for the next 50 minutes, we're going to kind of share a little bit about this project. We're going to give you information on how to get started, but this is really just the beginning. We are planning a number of different workshops that are going to help people get involved in this program and help you get to the finish line of having a block as part of this project. So with that, I will pass it to Dagny and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again so much for being here. Just a quick note. We only have two people in the space today. So if you came in late and we didn't check you in, please, please, please make sure that we check you in before you leave today. I'm Dagny Brown. I'm a co-director here at the Cultural Center, and I am just so grateful. I am very much learning to sew. The way that I would put it is high love, low skill. Unlike Emily, who is high love, high skill. And yeah, we made a little slide presentation where we can kind of show you what we're thinking, and we're excited to embark on this collaborative process.
So if you want to go to the first slide, we're going to talk about what we're making, how we're making it, and well, I covered where it will be. So, and then plenty of time for questions. And for those in the space, we got a big old fabric stash that's all free. A shout out to my mother-in-law who hoarded a lot of fabric and just let me steal about half of it from her basement. But there's more. So we're going to keep that generosity going to make sure that if you don't have the resources to participate in this project, we got you. We want to make sure you're still a part of it. Next slide. Did I go?
Yeah, I mean, I think Emily covered this in her introduction, but I just wanted to say that in the meeting that we had with Alice, our last meeting where we kind of went through the events that she specifically wanted us to cover, she was really thinking and talking about the idea of disability creativity and disability hospitality. Those were kind of two of the things that she was really focusing on at that moment. And so we just talked about how this could be a quilt that anyone, regardless of if you don't want to quilt, if you are an experienced quilter at any point, you can have something to do with this and your story can be reflected. So we've tried really hard to think of ways where you can spend 2 minutes and you can answer a prompt and you can be a part of the quilt, or you can get really invested in building the whole thing. So we're just really excited to hold this. Next slide, please. So as we were saying, the kind of the prompt for the disability visibility quilt is to inspire you is disability visibility is. So when you think about making your square, or if you think about incorporating words into the quilt, you can think about that particular prompt. It will be kind of a network of 8x8 squares that it will kind of individually bind so they can be moved around. It doesn't have to be a grid. It can be made into kind of organic shapes. And so it's kind of flipping the idea of like a square quilt on its head. And it will be able to be, depending on how many squares it could be, we could have a huge formation on the front wall, and maybe we could have other little pieces of it throughout the space, just depending on how large it is. So we have lots of options. And yeah, and so just to make sure we're clear when we say that you can participate without doing any of the quilting or any of the artistic part, we have a little form that there's a link we'll send out where you can just put the word or the answer to the question. What does disability visibility is? And we will quilt it. We'll have some of our quilters that are on our team work that specifically into the quilt. Next slide, please.
So I saw a question in the chat about, will these instructions be emailed after? Absolutely. We have a whole user document to help lead you through with tutorials to link off and figure out how to do this and more information. Today is just I'm going to frame it in the most often to get you hyped that this is worth doing, that you should participate, that even if you've never sewed anything before, that you totally can be a part of this project. I'm just going to supplement, even though I did it in the most janky and quick ways this morning. So just what Dagny was saying about we're going to just have people add a single word. I just quickly, my machine quilted the word joy onto the middle of this square as a sample. So that's just to give a quick and dirty sense of how we'll be integrating the words from folks who cannot participate into the program. If you're just joining us in the space, we ask you just come on in and we'll handle registration later. So what we are doing is a stitch and flip inspired method. It is very, very user-friendly. Again, I've quilted for some time, but I was able to generate these squares in about 18 or 20 minutes each one this morning. So it's meant to be user-friendly. It's meant to let's see. Yep. Meant to, that's why we have two. So it's meant to be something where you kind of just go with it. You don't expect perfect. You don't expect that it's going to just be like rigid. A lot of quilting like you do something a quarter off and it throws the entire thing off. The style and what's exciting about this pattern is that the more chaotic, it all kind of comes together as cohesive. And we really are embracing that theme as kind of part of what's great about a community quilt. The idea of trying to say, okay, yours has to be just like hers and it has to link up with these colors or something. Like that's not realistic to what our community is, which is so much diversity. And that's where the excitement is. So our goal today is to make something that just really allows for freedom of expression inside of doing this style. And we'll have lots of additional workshops to help folks. If you are feeling super daunted, we're going to have one-on-ones and we're going to provide a machine to make it possible. So there's a few different ways you can do this. One way is that, and this is the easiest way, if you are real new to sewing. Oh, okay. Okay, next. Well, so you can create it in whatever format is accessible to you. So that means you can do a machine if you have access to one. You can sew by hand if that works for you. You can glue fabric on and create a cool experience without even doing any stitching. And you can do iron interfacing that will allow you to kind of have a little help and support to the structure to make the sewing go a little smoother. Then when you have a finished square, we're going to have some additional workshops to help people learn how to add on to it. So you might kind of start with this method, but then you might want to add some embroidery of some of those words answering that prompt, disability, visibility is. You might have a button that's really special to you that you just want to attach onto it. This is not a cozy up on a blanket on the couch kind of quilt. This is going to hang on the wall. So it's okay if it's got some substance to it, if it's got some, different types of fabrics. Really, the history of these quilts that go all the way back to the 1800s was that people were just doing it with any kind of resources they could find. You'd pull the lining out of a cigar box and integrate that in, and maybe take a chunk of jeans from your kid who wore them out, but like there's good material there, and put it all together. So that was kind of the idea as well, was that this was, allowing anybody to have access to this medium with whatever materials you could find. And so you can keep it really simple, or you can add as much flair and pizzazz as you want. That's really part of the challenge for you, is to how expressive you want to be with it. Next slide. Cover that one. Next slide. So there are ways to participate remotely if you are not local to the Bay Area. You can share your word, and it will be quilted in. We're going to ask really sticking to that one word because somebody's doing those stitches. So we can't take passages or phrases. We hope you understand. You can mail in your square. Just email us a photo and we'll send you postage if you need that to be able to participate. So you just send it right to the Cultural Center. And on the Disability Cultural Center Discord, dcc.page/Discord, we have an event today that is the quilt. And under there, you can ask your questions. You can share your project as it's going. You can get some cheerleading from the community. You can complain, why did I let them convince me to do this? I'm so frustrated. Whatever it is, that's a place where you can find a little community along the way, because the goal is not just that the end result is celebrating community, but all of our programs are trying to form community along the journey. Next slide. At the DCC, we'll have a lot of hands-on workshops. Our next one will be in March, and some crafting circles. But also during open hours, we're going to have a machine set up. We're going to leave some fabric around. We're going to have the interfacing and the squares that you need. And we'll have staff, and we'll be announcing, good opportunities to do this, where you can just come in and do your square from start to finish in our space, with people who are able to jump on and get you through it. So cool extra motivation to get you in the door, have a snack, and have a little cozy afternoon with us. Next slide, please. Okay, we can take a little pause and get some questions, even though we know there's more to cover, such as, how do I do this? Are there any virtual questions or in-room questions? If it's in-room, we're going to bring a mic to you.
Hi, I just have a clarification question. For those of us in the room, are we going to be making the squares here and finishing them here today, or is it something that we're starting together and taking home?
Thank you. Good question. I hope that you did not enter with the hope of like, I am going to finish a square today, because we'll just jump right to no. But today, if you're in the room, you will get to leave with the materials you want. So when we break, we'll have another hour here to just cut strips of fabric. They're all typically in a fat quarter size. You don't need the whole amount. You can kind of just take a big strip of it and then collect, 15, 20 strips, and that'll be and a couple, odd different sizes, because your centerpiece is a bigger size, and that'll be the materials you need to be able to dive into it.
Will we have sewing machine or things like how, because it's a lot of people, it's gonna be some time like for each person, how we'll do coordinate like that type of stuff? Do I have to sign in for like every day, like say half an hour or an hour for that, or we have to, like, how we'll do that?
Yeah. So part of the reason why you won't do it done today is because we were like, whoa, amazing, the best. So many people signed up. And, between the two of us, we could maybe get 4 machines together, and that just wasn't going to work. But we will set you up. Then we'll have the machine with the goal of people just swinging through open hours. It typically is going to take, if you're a new sewer, an hour to be able to do a square. And so we think that over the next, 6 months, that if people just, whenever you're finding time to come in to do a session at the DCC, the upcoming quilting workshop that we'll be having will be specifically like, I've convinced all my sewing friends to bring their machines, and we'll just have our crank it out, people just jumping on, doing it, and hands-on then. So again, sorry that we did not give that heads up. We're not sewing today. We're talking about how great it's going to be when we are sewing. Thank you, Joe.
So sewing machines and stuff are provided for hand sewing. Do you guys have needles and thread snips and pins and stuff and all the stuff you would need for hand sewing?
Yes. So during open hours, if people prefer to do it that way, if the machine just feels too intimidating, we'll have the kind of basic materials available, and we can also lead you through that. And the interfacing method will have interfacing available, and that also kind of frees you up from needing to do the needle and thread method.
Do they have to be square?
Oh my God. Dagny and I,
I tried so hard. I tried
Dagny
so
and I
hard.
argued a lot. Do you want to say why? Because I really am with you. The whole reason we're doing this pattern is a compromise. Say why squares are bad. I know they're bad.
I don't like squares. I think they're boxes, and I don't like boxes. And I don't think that they particularly speak to disability culture. Howsoever, quilting with not squares in a community way is nearly impossible. Quilting in that way requires a lot of math, a lot of skill, a lot of hours. And we thought really long and hard about how we can make this a quilt that represents disability community and disability justice and disability culture while still working within a sustainable framework of not, quite frankly, killing Emily's passion for sewing. Love you so much. So that's why we kind of decided on this very organic method within each square, and then also not binding them all together. So we can kind of take each individual piece and make different shapes with it. So they're kind of building blocks. So it's a bit of a compromise that centers both sustainability and also the fluid sort of organic nature of our community and our culture.
So we're just fully airing our baggage that we talked a lot about this. And
so much.
And it's a beautiful example of what co-directors are like. We just go back and forth and make it work. But yeah, the idea of like, you can have so many shapes inside of an 8x8 square. Thank you, Em. I'm seeing questions in the chat about, did we go over the specifics of this method? So it is an 8x8 square. Well, the process where you do it, you really start by having a center piece. So you start with a shape. A square is kind of a boring shape. We've just covered that. But that's what I'm holding up right now. And then you put it on a blank 8x8 square. You kind of tack it down. And then you're going to use a piece on top. And I'm doing it poorly right now. This is just kind of to show you. Sure. This is just kind of to give an overview of like what it's going to be like. But we're going to send some picture tutorials that quilters have done that are going to just make it a lot easier to follow along than anything I'm going to show you right now. I'm just going to kind of demystify it a little bit. So you're going to just take a piece of fabric. Doesn't have to be measured to some perfect dimensions, just a piece of fabric that matches the length of what you just did. And then you're going to stitch it with the right sides of the fabric together right on top. And then it opens up, and then you create a new length of fabric. So now you're going to put a longer strip, right sides together, and you're going to stitch that on top and open it up again. And you just kind of keep moving in a spiral formation around until the finished product is bigger than your 8x8 square. So at that point, you can send it to us like that, in this state. So right now I'm holding up a thing that is much bigger. It's not a square at all, and it's much bigger. But in the back is the 8x8. So I will then, take that, cut it off, and make it back into a nice square. And that's when you get kind of this exciting reveal of, oh, that's what I actually did. This is what it looks like. And then with that piece, that's what you can then embellish, add on, accentuate with whatever speaks to you. The interfacing method, are there slides for this? Should I be doing? It's not. Okay. The interfacing is this like fabric-y stuff that basically has glue on it. And so that activates and melts when you put a hot iron on top. So the interfacing method, you just start laying down pieces of, did it get passed out? Is that where those went? So you just start laying pieces of fabric on top of an 8x8 square, and you just keep doing it until all of it is covered, and kind of trimming and cutting as you go to try and make sure as much of the fabric is touching the glue as possible. And then when it's all over it, you put a hot iron on top. You make sure that no interfacing is showing, because if interfacing is showing, it's going to glue up your iron and it's a disaster. And I have spent hours cleaning it off before, so I don't recommend it. And then with that product, you then take a sewing machine and just stitch over it however you want. You can stitch along the lines. You could just stitch wildly. You can truly let it be zigzag and chaos and embrace it. However you do it will work. And then once again, you cut it back down to an 8x8 or send it to us that way and we'll go ahead and cut it down to an 8x8. Again, you can just do it with glue. You can just cut out pieces of fabric and aim for this like organized chaos with gluing fabric patches on. That's another way you can do it. And then this is an example that Dagny's now showing of a hand sewing approach. So the fabric is just being put on in these layers, and each time a piece is being added on, they're stitching along the edges to kind of tack it down adequately in place. So, and then this one that we have up has a bunch of loose edged fabric that has been pinned down with interfacing and then just wild stitching in every kind of diagonal. There's not like a geometric pattern to it. It's just kind of fun, embracing the chaos of the shapes with the chaos of the lines as well in this product that kind of makes it kind of come together in this cool, cohesive way. And now Dagny's showing an example of something that's like a much older version of the style of this type of quilting that has a lot of embroidery on top of it. So everything in this is kind of like pink and lace and trims and ribbons, which you can incorporate a lot of ribbons too. There's buttons on this one. There's some strawberry embroidery, and somebody's written the word strawberries with embroidery. So it's real cutesy. And here's one more with this pattern where they also kind of added just little touches of embroidery. So almost like vines creeping in different directions on different patches of fabric. And Dagny is circling to show me that this one has a little snail on it. And ridiculously fast, Frida in the virtual room already did a snail emoji floating up through the screen. So credits to Frida for how quickly she was ready to go with that snail. So I'm just going to check the chat. Mika, do you want to read anything that's been going on in the chat for us?
Sure. Happy to. We did have a request to only have two folks spotlighted at once so that they can see the interpreter and the materials better.
Okay. I will take mine off. Noted.
And Frida said, "This is so cool. Thanks for showing us all this. I have zero quilting or sewing knowledge and am excited to participate." Well, we're excited too. And should we bind our squares ourselves or leave them undone in the way for you all to finish how you'd like? Also, should we do batting and backing or just make the top design layer? And what would happen with the scraps cut off beyond the 8x8? Would they be incorporated somehow instead of thrown out, thinking about sustainability and also metaphorically?
Good question. Okay, the first question, you do not need to bind it. You do not need to think about batting. So we'll be working with folks who want to be involved in the next phase of how do we put it all together and make it into a quilt. So for this phase, it's really just a quilt block top. Second question. Oh my goodness. As somebody who makes my own clothes, where does the garment, wait, it's a thing that haunts me to no end. Right now, my husband has dummies at his middle school that are for wrestling. And it's the most wonderful gift because he's given me these 5 things that I can fill up with fabric scraps, and it's taking like years. And I'm like, oh, I have somewhere for it to go. Ilo, that's EILO, who's in the space, does incredible work that specifically is aimed at scraps and how to use it and repurpose it. So we can come up with some resources of ideas of what to do with your scraps. There are cool ways that you can kind of put them in a bag, save them up, and then use them to stuff a pillow, use them to stuff your next project, a little stuffy for a kid, things like that. But it is real hard to not have some scraps. But what's cool about this project is it's basically a scrap project. It uses those scraps that you kind of would otherwise toss away, a strip here, a piece there, and integrates them in. So just kind of an opportunity to think about that. If you're not going with fabric you're grabbing today and you're putting it together to, like, you can use a used garment and something that has a hole in it that's beyond repair. You can use things that you find from places like Scrap in San Francisco, where they have lots of cool reusable materials that kind of like go to be saved from landfills. What else, Mika?
All right, this is Mika again with the chat. Amanda said, I'm so excited participating from Oklahoma. Someone said hi to M. And a recommendation, if folks want more examples, you can find them by looking up the unfortunately ableist term crazy quilting. And folks are giving just some other recommendations in the chat. And one more question is how, where, and where will the names, if desired, of contributors be shared and listed? And where is it going to be hung?
Well, I'll go easy one first, which is the names of contributors. I can imagine that we would put a list of them up at the DCC next to the quilt, and also put it online. And of course, it is completely optional if you want to be credited, how you want to be credited, what name you would use. So I think that anywhere that the quilt went, we would also send this list as a list of the artists. Yeah, such a bummer that it's called a crazy quilt. Like, such a bummer. And we thought about it. The other word for the method is stitch and flip. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about like reclaiming the word crazy and, you know, how this is kind of like a disability centric model because it can be very accessible and you can kind of make it your own. But I think the reality is that it's just really a bummer, and we're going to be moving away from using that term for this.
And, you know, we're really looking to kind of take some of the tutorials that are out there and then put together our own guides so you don't have to be seeing guides that have that word all over them. Thank you, Dagny.
And this is Mika again. Another question. I'm not familiar with stitch and flip quilts. Is there a certain seam allowance we should account for?
So you don't need to worry at all about what seam allowance you choose to do. Hold on, we've lost interpreting. Okay. As long as you know, I wouldn't put a word or a trim around a half inch on the sides of the square because that's where they'll be pieced together. That's really the only seam allowance that matters. When I did these this morning, I wasn't even thinking about it because it really doesn't matter much. You could do one seam at a quarter inch. You could do the next seam in the UK at a centimeter, and you would just be totally fine because it all kind of works out as each one. As long as you're kind of ironing it as you go and keeping it nice and flat, it's really not going to be a problem. And that's kind of part of the nice, forgiving method that we're working with here.
Great. I think that's it for the questions. Folks are getting their questions answered. Yes to binding, no to batting, just top layer.
No to binding, no to batting.
Yes, correct. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that's it. Any more questions? We have some excitement and gratitude in the chat.
If we have other disabled friends that want to participate, but they might not be able to come to the events at the certain times, can we still encourage them to make a piece and contribute it?
Absolutely. So the point of today is to just give an overview. We will be sharing a document that leads folks through all the essentials to participating. Anybody can participate. They don't have to have been here today. And again, you can do it totally independently, or you can do it at the space if you want somebody to help lead you through it. And Rosemary said, I know there will be in-person space to sew and work on the quilt. Can we also have virtual time to craft together separately? Yes, totally. Folks are saying they love that idea. We're seeing lots of excitement from the virtual community of being able to participate. So thank you. All right. Some people, so for folks virtually, some people in person have already got up and are getting in on that fabric. So if you are virtually and virtual and fabric access is going to be a resource for a challenge for you, you can get in touch with the DCC. We can brainstorm how to support. So unless there are any other questions, oh, there's one, Jasenia.
I was just talking to Maya and we were like, oh, maybe we can host a sewing time at the Stacy House at Oakland with DJCC, and or other people who have sewing machines on the East Bay so that we can host stuff. So I wanted to ask if that was something we could work on.
Yes, let's do that. That sounds great. Thank you very much. Let's see. Can we make more than one square if we are inspired to? I don't know. We haven't talked about that. We will let you know when we send out the materials. I mean, it sounds great. But if you're an experienced quilter, maybe there's something we could do, like we could get some help with bindings or something like that. There's a lot of like other kind of behind the scenes stuff that needs to happen. So anyway, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say start with one. And if we're not seeing a lot of results and we need enough to fill a quilt, we'll certainly say, who's ready to do another one? But we are optimistic from the excitement we've seen today that we're going to get the quantity we need to get this project done, and that it'll only grow from there because people will see your beautiful work and they'll want to contribute to it and be part of it.
I see a question in the chat from Cherise. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but can we make our own quilts that connect crib style virtually to the primary quilt? I am not sure I understand the question. I mean, it sounds really cool. But if you want to let us, if you want to, yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question, though. It does sound really cool. How do they get the square backing if they're working on this virtually? You want to talk about what they can use for backing in general?
So the square backing is really just a piece of muslin, cotton, or any fabric. It's just the cheapest kind of fabric you want because it's going to be built on top of it. So don't if you've done the square as it should go, you won't see any of it. So really, if you have any piece at all, it's just making sure that it's 8 by 8. And you can start a little bigger even and cut it to 8 by 8 when you get to the very end. The interfacing is something that is like a really affordable glue-based fabric. Typically, it's like $2 a yard from fabric stores. And there's places like Wawak, WAWAK, that order it and deliver it online. And what? Oh, and use a glue stick. Yeah, you cannot do interfacing. You can just use a piece of fabric, use a glue stick, glue your fabric scraps down, and then do that method where you just put a bunch of stitching on top so that the glue is no longer what's actually holding it down. Good call, Em.
Yeah, this is Dagny. And then again, if access to materials is a problem, is an issue for you, and you're not able to come into the DCC, email us at access@disabilityculturalcenter.org and we can work something out.
And then folks who are knowledgeable about sewing on here are really anxious that I'm not being intense enough about the seam allowance. So I will be more intense about the seam allowance. Okay. So when we piece these squares together, we will be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So plan for the outside of your box, every single edge of the box, a 1/2 edge of it may be hidden. So don't put your beautiful words there, no buttons there. But if you're just doing this method, you're just losing a little bit of trim and it's still kind of showing everything typically. Thank you to the quilters here, keeping me accountable. I'm also really impressed that folks are saying like, oh, is that like a log cabin quilt and things like that? It's a really similar technique and style to the log cabin, just a lot easier.
And we will take all of these amazing questions and we will put them into the document we already have going and send that out to all participants along with the important pieces of the slides. So do not worry about capturing the chat. We will have all of these questions answered. They're also great.
All right.
Adrian is asking, is there a deadline for our finished squares to be sent to the DCC? I would say aim for the middle of May would be great, but we will be more explicit about that.
So Karis explained that when they were saying, can we make our own quilts that connect Crip style, that they make a quilt that lives with them, but it's part of the project, like multiple quilts across the world. I think that that's kind of what we're hoping with our Discord quilt community, which is that like anybody who is doing quilting is kind of sharing it and letting it also be a place for other disabled creatives to connect in this realm as part of this. Is there a deadline? Sorry.
And then Camille is asking, is it okay sending crochet squares or were you working on something different? I mean, if the crocheted squares are sewn to an 8x8 piece of muslin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of do what you want on an 8x8 piece of muslin with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Thank you.
Well, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. Our first gratitude, once again, for anybody who arrived late is to Alice Wong for giving us this exciting challenge, this beautiful dream. And we just are so excited to get to honor her in doing this. Our second gratitude is to the City of San Francisco's Human Service Agency's Department of Disability and Aging Services. They make the DCC possible as our largest funder and supporter. And we are part of an organization called the LC and Lily Cox Haven of Hope. So the Disability Cultural Center is run through that. Thank you to our access team who was with us today. And thank you to all of you. We're obviously kind of figuring it out. This project has just been like, wow, we want to know, we want to do it. And then putting the pieces together, no, not doing a pun there, but it happened, is it's just been evolving. And what is so exciting now that we have had this launch with you is now that it's evolving with all of you. You all are going to figure it out. You're all going to make beautiful squares. And we cannot wait to see the incredible disability magic that's going to happen when they're all together in one place. So thank you for being here. Thank you for those virtually for being with us. And we are so grateful to get to do this. It's going to be fun.
Thanks, y'all.